Get outside. Sorry. Afternoon rambling geek. Hope you're well. Today is a rough start already. My prompter isn't working. It won't turn on. Whatever. Uh, so it seems like janky streaming is the theme of my week. So I got the little Linux Mint machine and stuff. So I've got a Ryzen 5800H with 16 gig of memory, mini PC. And I got that working over the weekend. Had lots of fun. Nice. Nice. Tinkering and gadgetry. That was awesome. Um, yeah, I got Linux Mint installed and got OBS installed and stuff. And got streamed some Gran Turismo. I think it did pretty well. I haven't watched the VOD back yet. My audio was busted, but that's because I was trying to set that up in a weird way, not using my normal stream setup. Actually, might be a good home for the Stream Deck, actually, if I switch them back out again. Use the XLR Stream Deck to do that. Yeah. Yeah. Camera was a bit too much. Like, the positioning of everything is hard when you've got the wheel. So everything's to my left, but the actual wheel lifts over to the left. I can't get out of it. So I can't set up a positioning where I'm close enough to the TV that I can still see it properly. And because it's high, I need to figure out how to put it lower. And also the desk where I've got the actual stuff is just to my left. So everything was just, it was working. I could sit there and play PlayStation games now and stream them, which would be good. So yeah, that's my apologies. I am for some reason very very tired. Have the cam behind you watching the wheel and feel, yeah. If I organize the room, yeah. Um, I love coding. I can't code. I can't concentrate. I open my PC. I watch Twitch, then YouTube. Then at the end of the day, I'm struggling. Hi, Anazara. How you doing? You gotta find yourself some motivation to do the actual coding part and not and balance it with the Twitch. Like find coding streams that you can listen to while you code, that you don't need to focus on, but you can have as background noise that aren't too distracting. The thing I find with most Twitch streams is they are about the entertainment, and which means lots of noises, lots of quirky things or whatever, and they become distracting. Or I watch video game streams, which is something I don't do as much anymore. I know, well, recently I've got into Gran Turismo a lot more, so I've been watching a lot more racing streams, but it's just finding the balance. Uh, Actually, I'm trying to find. So, yeah, if you want to code while you will or watching streams or having background noise, um, I found myself on the weekend because I was focused. I didn't have anything on. Yeah, if you can find the focus, it's great. Um, and it's a bit of discipline. You gotta have a bit of self discipline. You gotta say to yourself, enough. Focus on this. And if you're finding stuff boring, that's always going to push you towards watching Twitch or getting distracted. And you know, for the last couple of weekends, I've been struggling with the deployment. So rather than focus on deployment, I play games and then set up a stream to play games. Yeah, it can be difficult. Hopefully, you should not hear this because I actually am putting music on for the first time in a while. Trying. It sounds very silent in the room. I don't believe. Yeah, it's muted. It should be. Okay. So, the spark of the weekend to sketch out 6 more chapters. They need a lot of refinement, but the story is absolutely there. Nice. Congrats, One Lion. And happy Monday. So, we find ourselves in a place that I'm not sure I wanted to be right this second. Although, here's where I'm thinking about this. Developers.stream is proving to me what Aspire can do as far as a host can go. If Aspire can do this and I can get the Kubernetes version working potentially, then it might be Liquid Sky can actually be deployed to Kubernetes through Aspire, because I don't actually have any of these extra pieces in Liquid Sky. So today we're going to focus on, can we cut this out in anywhere but development? And how do we get these connection strings to work when this isn't applied in other places? That's going to be challenging, because I ran a cost analysis and I shouldn't have looked. So far, just having this up for the weekend since Friday is already at $5.55. So we're at $5 after 4 days, or less than 4 days. Yeah, less than 4 days. So over the month, that's going to ramp up. Most of that actually is the well, let me show. I don't think I show any. I've got so there we go. So basically, since Friday, right, our registries cost us 40 cents. The storage alone has cost us a cent. $5.15 in container apps. Postgre accounts for $2 of those values, and it's not in use, right? This is just rebooting right this second, right? That's upsetting, but that's a necessary. Well, that might not be necessary evil if we can get rid of the actual other pieces. So how do we do this without using? How do we do this with using Aspire and this without using Aspire? Harish, hello. How you doing? That is the question. So, yeah. That's the one I want to answer today. So I am very much thinking the developers.stream will allow me to understand a lot more about Aspire, how it deploys, how we can configure it. And if we can get there, then Liquid Sky is probably a lot easier. Phil Schnabel, hello. How you doing? So first question is very much, how do we do? So Mojo was actually talking about this today. If I think it's environment dot dot is no, it's host, isn't it? We don't have a host here. We have no concept of his development in this. So Actually, we probably should do one thing first, actually. AZD down. CD. Let's stop those resources costing me even more money. Right? I don't need them right this second. So, you know, at $5 for 4 days, you know, we're looking at, well, once it's in use, potentially even more, right? So it's at least $40 or $50 over the course of a month. Which, yeah, and most of that was ramping up. That, you know, that was disproportionately on the Postgre side. So if we can use a cloud hosted Postgre, right, which I do have one set up, then we can take a bit of that cost off. And like I said, I don't mind spending $30 a month on Liquid Sky, developers.stream. My brain is frazzled. But you know, it's I gotta keep the costs controllable. And I'm starting to think that very few people have actually done what I'm about to try to do either. So this might be very worthwhile tutorializing. So we'll pay attention to what we're doing here. Actually, I say that. What I'll do, that is saved. Don't need that. Super base. I don't need super base. Don't need that. Don't need that. Just closing down some stuff so I can organize. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to keep a notepad open and try and save links that I find or content that I refer to. It's deleting the resource group. So it's deleting the entire resource group, which means that my budget that I just put in place on that resource group is going to get wiped out. That's going to be interesting. Okay. So we are going to need how to deploy. Interesting options. How to deploy select parts to Azure using .NET Aspire. So again, the problem here is I want to, when I'm running locally, this is what I want. When I'm running remotely, I just need these up, and I need to set a connection string for the remote Postgre database. So that's the challenge. And it kind of defeats the point, I think, to some extent, because the idea is that, hey, this is my local deployment, now it's my remote deployment, and they're kind of counting on everything being there. So this might be just trying to get around something. let's start with the dumbest version of this, right? So we have this. So if we do if debug, right now, static public static what is that? I mean, it doesn't really make a big difference. Distribute application, distribute application builder. And then we take everything in there. And we paste that in there. Then return builder. Right. And then builder, build development. Right. LF deploy production. And then we take everything here. And we get public distribute application builder, build production, this. So now that's going to have issues because we don't have any of that stuff, which is okay. But we do need to figure out how to get those variables in there, right? So how do we reference a connection string? Like these will work. I believe what we need is with suppose an endpoint, no, with environment variables and a resource. With environment, no, with environment. So in here, right, we refer to developers.stream. So if we have connection strings, developers.stream, right, what does that look like? So builder.build production, right? And if we set the, what's the word for that one? Profile. Flag. Brain. When we do the actual, if we can figure out how to get the deploy, the easy up to build using a profile that uses this flag, then it would use production and not development. And that would allow us to deploy a development version when local that would look like the production version with very little differences. And what we'd have to do is pull these similarities out into a core deployment. So again, I think this is probably counter to how they would want to do this, but I think this is definitely a supported use case, especially for me with Liquid Sky. Liquid Sky, I want to deploy this, but I don't want to use Azure for Kafka. I don't want to use potentially, other tools all within the Azure workflow. Now, I get it. As a self-contained system, that makes sense. It makes perfect sense. Deploying this, if it worked anyway, would have been nice and simple, but I need it to be better. Something doesn't sit right with that environment variable. There's something, the pattern. Like that makes sense. Maybe it does work. Something's telling me there's something to do with the underscores and stuff. If you are new to the stream, if you have any questions, thoughts, opinions on what I'm doing, you're more than welcome to ask. Please feel free. None of this makes sense. Let me know. Mutnets, hello. How you doing? So, work from home. Nice. That's every day for me. I do miss the office sometimes though. Okay, so we got AZD up with let's actually have a look. Oh, this isn't finished deleting the resource group yet. That's not good. It's not good. It's marked as deleting, it's just not deleting it. Oh dear. Stuck on delete. I wonder if this has got because I've got a budget in place. Let's see. I decided to try and put a budget on the Azure resource group because I was thinking I want to keep that capped. Delta, good morning. So the reason I went to do that, was to try and test this. Init up. So it'd be nice if I could provide this. Like this is what I want to achieve, basically, right? So that when I do AZD up, it uses a deploy profile, which uses the production profile for the deployment, which would only deploy the services. Still deploy the migration, which is fine because it's going to be given a connection. I'm coding before work. Should probably stop doing that. Why? If you feel in the mood to Code. Don't. I mean, why does it matter if it's before work, on the weekend, in the evenings? I'm not quite sure I follow that thought. Like it kind of limits you, or you're just worried about it getting away from you. That's good. That's a good sign. It means you're excited to do something. Listen to it. Don't burn out though. I honestly feel that burnout is caused more by um 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 work stress overlapping than anything else. Amal, hello. It has been a while. I was actually just thinking about you the other day. I saw your name in a chat and I was like, I haven't seen you in a while. Hope you are well. So, I mean, obviously, if this is not possible, yeah, yeah. So back on the burnout thing. Burnout is not for me. It's not often caused by writing too much code. It's bumping up against the frustrations um of workday stuff, but also a mix like frustration of failure on personal stuff. So it's and I flip. That's why I do developers.stream. That's why I do other things, right? Because if I find myself getting to the point of stress and frustration, I make sure I switch over quickly so that I don't, so I can relax. And I just got to be, it's my discipline that allows me to go back to it, right? Rather than, uh, trying to wait for something to do. Um, Deleted resource group. Nice. It's finishing. Yeah. So I tend to flip to make sure that I protect my own mental health on things and don't burn out. But I don't think you should necessarily worry too much about uh, doing your own code. Because if you're excited, if you're energized to do something, you should do it. Have fun with it. Okay. So AZD help. Okay. Family. Sorry, I'm responding to a text from my wife. If I ignore them while I'm streaming, I get in trouble. And if you've not heard the phrase before, a happy wife is a happy life. Happy teenagers will be better. Anyway, uh, the point there being the children are difficult. So what I want to learn is it possible to provide a profile? So AZD gives me this. Manage environments. There we go. So can I create a production environment, but feed that into my code is the question. Because then I could use AZD up to deal with this one, right? This doesn't matter, right? This particular thing doesn't matter. If I have to create a new build profile or I have to do something different, that's fine. What matters is this. This is the difference I'm trying to go for, right? I'm trying to say, okay, well, if you're doing it locally, right, and if I run this now, it should all come up properly because we're in debug mode. If you're doing it locally, then I want it to behave this way. If you're deploying it, it behaves slightly differently, and then it doesn't deploy the PostgreSQL pieces because we have them, but the connection string should be set in the environment. Now there was it did prompt me for this to begin with. Add parameter. PostgreSQL password. It prompted that, so we might be able to do that, and then figure out the rest. But we'll see. So this is working. It's working. And now hey Mitch, if you create a parameter for a password, make sure you do secret true. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Should log in. There you go. We're logged in. So yeah, everything's working fine. Yeah. Thank you very much for the follow. Appreciate it, my friend. Welcome in. What is Azure Emulator? Not wholly sure. Imagine the pieces around over here. It's the pieces around like queues and storage and stuff where it can bring up those pieces to pretend it's the Azure emulator. It imitates all the stuff so you can develop locally using queues and using storage with the relevant APIs, but then when you deploy it, it's usable. So you don't need to have those resources available for you locally. I have found the development experience so far, especially in .NET, especially in .NET, the development resources for Azure are much cleaner than those of AWS. No, not using test containers right now. This is all using. So right now, Aspire, which is what this is basically replacing that Docker Compose need, right? So Aspire is allowing me to build all the relevant pieces. So here I'm saying, okay, I need a PostgreSQL database that becomes Dockerized. Then I want to run my migration service. This migration service starts up and initializes the database with the connections and the seed data, and then I start an API, a web app, and a streamer API. So 2 APIs and a web app. Yeah. So this is .NET Aspire. So what I'm trying to do is figure out, is it possible using, being that I'm using AZD, right? This is the first. So for those that haven't been here before, I am not a cloud developer. This is not something that I normally do. I've sadly been kind of shielded from this entire thing for a long time in my professional career, and I haven't really chased it in my personal career because I've been focused more on different application development. I've generally worked on-prem, and when I have done cloud stuff, it's not been within my reach. So I'm trying to learn my way through this. So hints like, make sure to do secret. That's a really great call out. Thank you, Mitch. Making sure I'm doing those sorts of things. What I'm trying to figure out right this second is it possible to give this a profile so that it gives something to the application to say, oh, by the way, you're building in this mode. Because I don't know if AZD init does create anything specific. It's an Azure YAML file. So if I can do that, then I can avoid. So step one, can I give a profile? If I can give a profile, then I can actually specify something like this where I can build it to production, because the production stuff only needs the 3 services or 4 services. It doesn't need the SQL database, the Postgre database. I can provide, once I figured that out, I can go and figure out, okay, now I have a Neon DB. How do I provide that connection string into those app services so that they start up and run? Is it the best way of doing it? I don't know. But it feels like it's a usable use case. You don't need a profile. Aspire has an execution context when you run locally. That if you're publishing, it's set to publish. Ah. Tell me that's not a string. Ah. Mitch, thank you very much. So it's run mode or publish mode. Okay. That's very cool. Thank you. Where did you so you would do it that way rather than have a separate profile? You would just switch out. Eh. I'll still be interested in the code snippet if you get the code snippet. I'm going to keep it this way. So they're very distinct, but yeah. That's something I was not aware of. That's very cool. That changes. So by the way, like I started the stream with, this could have major ramifications for my other project stuff, especially if I can figure out the Kubernetes deployment piece of this. Getting developers.stream working is great, but if I can get back to Liquid Sky and have an Aspire deployment of Liquid Sky, that and only have to worry about the Kubernetes deployment of the other pieces, Um, execution room on switch, true. Builder, add postgre, builder, add connection string. Ah, so you do it to the builder. That's how we do that one. So I don't need that, or that. I can do add connection string developers stream. But I need two, because I need that as well, I believe. Migration service. Yeah, developer stream off. Okay. So both I connection string and output. iResource build T, where T implements iResource for connection string, so the compiler will set the type. Gotcha. Right, now see why yeah, I get it. So instead of doing something like this where I could end up with these being very different and I now have to maintain them in two places, what I can do is take it all back, put it in here, and just do the switch out of the database piece, because the database is the Postgre piece. Yeah. Implication is that when you run locally, it'll spin up a container and create a database for you, but when you deploy your yes, and that's what I want it to do. So in theory, so even if I set them here, it'll still prompt me. Or can I just do that and it will actually just prompt? Let's find out. We do by trying. Well, so so what I'm trying to do, this is a personal project that I'm trying to host. I've set up a Neon DB, and I want to provide that remotely. Because I looked at the costing of servers, of databases, and it was not cheap. So you say user secrets. So do you have any so I appreciate the feed here. Do you have any links to resources that I could drop in Discord as well? Because then because this is really useful stuff, and I don't other people coming into the stream have not been able to do this as well, and I think it's a useful thing to understand and share. Maybe. Hello, how are you doing? How is your Monday? Just an interview. Was it a good interview? Definitely didn't pass. Oh. Eh. If I'm honest, I briefly know what it is, and then it's the thing that contains the thing. uh, a function can be a closure, right? um, I, yeah, it's a full blown app that uses Aspire. Yeah, don't know what the technical definition. If you fail an interview, on the technical definition of things, I fail every single time. I am not good at the technical definitions. I'm not good at recalling, solid principles properly, or how to use them, or how to apply them. But I can write code. To ask an experienced developer that sort of stuff, I get it. You should know the fundamentals, but you know the fundamentals implicitly just by doing the code. And to ask those sorts of questions shows that you're not really ready for the developer you're asking for, to be honest. And yes, that could be a little defensive, because I'm in a similar boat to you, I think, in terms of career, but it's in terms of development and the way we've built, rather than but yeah, I think it's I think if you're asking someone you're trying to hire as a senior developer fundamentals of programming, work with them on some code. Have them discuss how they built out a project or how they solved the problem. Don't ask them to give you the technicals. It's just not. It's stuff that you just kind of you forget more than you know. Canny, hello, how are you doing? Some people are highly technical. Some people have great recall for that stuff. Yeah. Anyway, okay. So Mitch has just helped us get over a bit of a bump. I'm tempted to start this. Now, again, I was looking at the costs of this. Right now, if I run with the Postgre run as a container app, which is what this would default to. Still playing around with front end. Oof. Oh yeah, there's the databases. That's the difference, right? Add database, add connection string. Nets, thank you very much for the follow. So I looked at the cost, and unless I got it wrong, the Postgre server would be in the Nets, thank you. The Postgre server would be in the $100+ a month. And as much as I want to make developers.stream a thing, unless I'm going to slap advertising and revenue streams all over it, I am not going to say to my wife, "Hey, by the way, I spent a couple of $100 on this nice community site last month." That's not going to happen. So, yeah. So we'll see how this goes. So anyway, I'm welcoming Mitch into the Twitch. Why not using a small V server? So, I mean, most of the time you're just delivering static content. Okay. You could also use Azure Storage, table storage, which is cheap as chips. So again, we get into the realm of I do not do cloud deployment, right? So I've got to learn my way through there. Yes, yeah. Right. So I can add Azure Storage. Okay, let me show what the app does. I'm open to some discussion on architecture, on design, on changes. Absolutely. But small V servers, so these need to be, if I'm going to make this an actual thing, then I need it to be available. So I can't use free versions of hosting because they have limitations that will run through pretty quick, right? So Mitch, your suggestion is to use Azure tables rather than even Postgre database. Get rid of that, and then that keeps the cost down of the data storage. Where did you go? Where did you go? Okay, so let's open this. Okay, so we have developers.stream. The intent is, as a streamer, you will log into here, you will set up your details, you will get an API key if you want an API key, you will update some tags. People will come along and search for C#, right? Where they'll find me, or they'll find Liquid Sky, right? Or they'll find great, and nothing. Amazing, right? They'll be able to search for the streamers. These will be updated constantly once we get it up and running to show, well, not constantly, but they will be updated as soon as I can figure it out with current live stats, etc. So again, trying to understand what technology is available is one challenge, especially when it comes to cloud stuff. What is the right way of configuring it? These are things you have to practice, right? So these are things I haven't practiced. I have barely touched Azure other than putting an app service up and putting a database up, right? So lessons learned. If Azure Table Storage can do this and do it without any cost, awesome. Or keep it low cost. These are running as app containers. I don't know if you can control anything more than that, can you? And are you delivering most of the time static content when you are able to search and flex and update this data? It's not something I can store as HTML. There's a serverless tier which can be pretty cheap, especially if you're aggressive with cache. Yeah. Turn response caching. Yes. Yeah. But the intent of this is to go and find streamers who are streaming about stuff. So I highly expect search to be a common component. So again, and some of this is obviously designed with my traditional flow of development, right? It's designed with the idea of a database in the back end rather than any other techniques. Trying to think about what I want to do here. Let's see if we can get Neon working. So now if I do AZD up, it should ask me for those connection strings. And I should be able to provide them. And then let's see if it comes up, because this was not starting anyway. We can always learn and flex this later. I think that's a more, because I'd like to get, what I want to do is get developers.stream up. This is, by the way, is a website, a set of pieces that are open source. These are shared on the TBD Friends GitHub. This is not like Liquid Sky. So let's see if we can get that. Let me just see. Let me see if this works now. So if I do AZD up now, best be ready with NeonDB. Log in. It completely breaks my brain. Um, so neon. So I need to. Can I do a new database there? Actually, let's not even bother with that. Let's see what happens. Um, connect Java. Hi Apex, how you doing? Let's see what happens. AZD. So when I do AZD up now, I think it should ask me for two connection strings, of which I'm going to give it. Let's see. I'm not going to show this on screen because I don't know what I'm showing. If I go through this several times and I'm comfortable with everything I'm doing, then I will show more on stream. But doing cloud stuff in general on stream has been very intimidating because again, I don't know what I don't know, which means that I risk showing stuff I shouldn't show. And no, can't always trust that everyone's as honest as you'd like them to be. No. You doing Apex? You get your computer back up and running. I was lurking in your stream yesterday. I was playing Gran Turismo and I was trying to set up a stream machine of my own. So I was lurking while you were up, but what went wrong? The reason I'm looking over there a lot today is because the prompter is broken, which is where the camera is. It's not broken, it's just not turned on. I did get up and running. Luckily, I had a spare fan. It seems okay. A fan went as well. Oof. Gotcha. So right now it's creating and updating resources, container apps environment. Ah, you got an AIO. I like that the newer AIOs definitely have refill ports. That's a good idea because they do dry out. Even though they're technically sealed, they still dry out. So between the CPU and the GPU is getting hot. Yeah. Yep. So part of the reason why I can't, so I had to set up a completely different stream setup is because if I want to run the PlayStation, I can't have one of the bigger PCs on. So I have a game PC, which has a streaming card in it, and I have the dev PC here, which has a streaming card in it, right? Or I stream off of, rather. I have another PC for streaming as well. But if I want the AC unit to run and keep the room cool, I can't have one of the bigger PCs on because of the power. That I only have a 15 amp breaker, and I need the house rewired to be able to fit anything bigger. So I put a little mini PC together, a 45-watt mini PC, uh, installed Linux, and got OBS and installed that so I could stream. Yeah, I thought it was funny the way the name of the account, but it was for gaming where this account is. Yep, yep. So TBD developer games and TBD gamer develops. Yeah. And a racist TBD gamer. So, yeah. That was a suggestion. I'll often shout him out. Um, um, uh, yeah, 1 second. Yeah, that's not going to work, is it? bring that. Yeah, I just got add connection strings there. But they're gonna need. Am I gonna need? Hold on. Do I need to add them as dependents on them? So. Yeah. So hold on. Do I do that in with reference? Okay, let's do the same. Yeah. Yeah. I do. They all need them. Yeah. So okay. So now I see the patterns. Now I see the similarities. So now we probably will move back away to. I just did that for no reason. That was just dumb. Now I see the pattern. Now I see the similarity. I can see why this is unnecessary. As much as I would like to keep them separate. Yeah. This name is the same. The connection string name is 100% the same. Yeah. But I see what. Yeah, I get what you're saying. Now that's a connection string name, but this actually creates a database of that name. That's an interesting thing. A database. Well, that's what I'm trying. I'm just trying to. That's just a list of resources. Okay. So you new app and bring up the dashboard and look at the environment variables for one of the projects that references the database. You'll see the dynamic generated string. Yeah. Okay, let me do that again one more time just to see if it gives me anything different. I think it should. Okay. Thing. I'm watching it go through, so yeah. Obviously doing this, I want to practice this. I want to get better at this. Liquid Sky is a completely different thing. Liquid Sky is not going to cloud anytime soon, right? The intent of Liquid Sky is to be deployed locally until I get the proof out there. Liquid Sky is for those that haven't been in here before, Liquid Sky is a project name for a project management and planning tool that I am also building. I stream that 3 days a week normally. That is a what if I got free reign over the resources sort of thing. So it's not intended to be cloud deployed in its current form. It's a distributed system, uses Kafka and Service Bus. Lots of databases, so lots of resources. You're getting a problem with Apple now and their liquid glass. Well, as Trappers pointed out, there is a movie from the 80s called Liquid Sky that, if you read the synopsis for, is quite a disturbing synopsis. It was the name Liquid Sky was not inspired by, nor taken off of that movie, because I never knew the movie existed until Trap mentioned it. Okay, so that didn't ask me for any connection strings at all. So resource group, container apps environment, monitor app, migration. So this should be broken because there's no database for it to go to. Log stream. Yes. So where does it put? So if you have a connection string at the app level, right? So these would technically be added at the builder level. I did AZD down before, so I just brought that up when I did the add connection string again. When I so the references, I cancelled the up before it got to deploying of the services. So it's just deployed the API, the migration, the streamer API on the web. So it hasn't, so 100% it has not tried to deploy Postgre, which is great. But now obviously it's getting a connection timeout on the fact that it has no connection string. But my question was there is like, where does it put the actual connection string? What level? Or does it just copy them down onto everything? Okay, so properties. Interesting. So let's do this. This might could take a while. We're going to bring it down again. So again, what Mitch has kind of provided as education here is basically, I don't need to do. I could take all this and put that in here, right? And take that. I only want to do that in the run mode. But basically, I need those to be defined, right? So, because all this stays the same. Yeah, you know what? Let's not play right. But in essence, again, we can. These are now just copies. The variables being what they are. Again, developers stream db. What did I call the other one? I didn't even call it db. Right, they're identical now. With reference and wait for. Gotcha. Let me bring that down then. No, no worries, Mitch. I appreciate that time. I appreciate you hanging out and providing the experience here. Um, this is why this community and streaming in general is great. So what I'm doing is right now I'm just deleting the resource group to make sure that I clean up the resources because I do not want to leave that out there. So AZD down will bring everything down. This is no different than Pulumi, right? Um, and again, when it comes to Liquid Sky, potentially if I can get because this does support Kubernetes as well. If I can get that working, then I could potentially deploy Liquid Sky through Aspire as well. You will also want to delete the Azure folder in the directory where you ran your AZD up from. Gotcha. So we'll clean this up and start fresh. Unfortunately, this takes a few minutes. I think this took about 17 minutes last time. So let's I'm doing that for anyone. Yeah. So while we're doing that, let me show the main project for my stream. So again, this is not a project that is aimed at being it is aimed at being a product. It is not aimed at being simple. Stony, hello, how you doing? The Aspire itself obviously uses Docker already. Yeah. Yeah. So Liquid Sky is kind of my what if project. It started off to see if I could take the ideas that I'd had at my previous employer of how to build the application and take and make them feasible. It is heavily distributed. Each one of these is its own set of services, one or more. If it receives data or publishes data, etc. There's an API layer in each one. The intention is for these to be write primarily databases. They publish integration events out to Kafka. Kafka then is consumed by other components of the system that add extra behavior, calculate changes, publish notifications, all those sorts of things. So Liquid Sky is using Aspire now. We did move that over to Aspire. So it is at least in a place where it could be done. The problem I'm having right now is actually one of deployment. So it's kind of my nemesis of late. Liquid Sky is deployed to a Kubernetes box hosted locally because it has a lot more resource requirements. There's no way I'm putting this anywhere near the cloud. And it helps if you actually start up all the Docker pieces because that's all going to fail. Prototypes. All that for that. We'll get there. Okay. So I have a set of scripts that bring up all the Docker components, so the SQL Server, the Redis deployment, etc. For Liquid Sky. Um, um, so the one thing I have learned through the deployment misery with Pulumi has been I should not have put them all into one stack, which I did. Really? Um, and what happened is when I brought things down, they didn't come back up again cleanly. So now I'm in this world of I can't bring everything up because I can't pull everything down properly. Yeah. So yeah, I'm bringing Liquid Sky up to try and show Liquid Sky while I wait for this resource group to delete because I can't do very much else until that's done. So it's a good time to show. Um, Again, so um, at my previous employer, I'd implemented Kafka, and really I'm using Kafka for state transfer, right? So I'm using it to produce data for the rest of the system to consume. I'm not using it for a message bus. I'm not using it purely to say, oh, this happened, this happened, this happened. Um, um, so I wanted to practice using Kafka and also work on, we're not going to use that word, but these are groups of behavior that I can rearrange and move around the behavior of, relabel, etc. pretty quickly. The API is exposed as one API through an API gateway, and um, the Angular client connects through the gateway. So the GraphQL API, the query, the inserts, all of this looks like one application from this side of things, but looks separate on the backend. So it's very much an experiment in, can I do this? Um, so what I'm trying to figure out right now in the background is how to do this. So this sort of stuff, um, as you said, Mitch, will be thanks to your help, sorry, not as you said, would be very helpful for Liquid Sky because I think if I could figure out how to do Kubernetes deployment using Aspire, then I could get Liquid Sky this actual pieces to deploy properly. But I just have to worry about the infrastructure. I know nothing about Aspire because I do Ruby, Python, but friend computer, by definition, out of date. Person to laughter when asked about deployment support. Yeah. So people know how to tune it well. Again, it's like any tool. It's like, oh, why are you using NeoVim? Why are you using Rider? Why are you using it? We all have opinions on how everyone else should do things. Um, Whatever works for you to be productive uh, is what matters most. If you work in a team and you all have different opinions, that's a little bit of a different problem. Yeah, but and good morning, Melanie. Melanie, sorry. Um, the if you do AD env new, you can create a new environment. All the resources scope through resource groups so they won't conflict. Gotcha. I'm very interested in this space since My primary project is a Docker Compose project generator tool with the possibility of Docker support if I get bored of Docker Compose, Kubernetes auto transform. Yeah, yeah. Aspire is evolving pretty quickly. I'm not sure it'll be, but it is. It is. So I was going back to say, part of this is me proving myself wrong to some extent in what Aspire can do, what Aspire should be. I don't like this idea, by the way. This and the pipelines piece is where I want to take it to, right? I want it to become a part of that process because, unfortunately, again, in my world, um, I am not the one responsible for this in production. I get to kind of guide DevOps on here's what I did, but that doesn't necessarily translate to how they deploy it. And the idea of, right click, like that, I dislike that being there because it can lure you into a false sense of security as far as deployment goes. And maybe that's from, a long time of doing IIS deployments manually, etc. Yeah. How goes it? I grabbed the wrong computer this morning for work, so that's a good start. It's probably not the best way to start the week. They go off prod deploy, but that shows how little I know. Again, that's why I feel like it's like I'm trying to figure out where are they trying to take this, because as a development tool, I think Aspire is fantastic. I think it's a really great tool and is allowing me to clean things up, especially in Liquid Sky, right? Where that dashboard is something, but I'm also not running the resources. I'm not running the Docker containers for the SQL Server and stuff out of Aspire here, but maybe I could do, right? Wow, you guys got very chatty in a quick window. I know I use Rider, but it's missing the latest Copilot model, so I'm using VSC for that, but I have to fix its mistakes, and doing that with VSC is just so annoying and tedious. If you're targeting Docker Compose, you can add the Docker package, then you can just do Docker Compose environment. I think Aspire is moving into 2 minutes. That was my fear. I did raise a lot of concerns. Mojo and I have had a lot of conversations on Aspire where I don't feel that it's. I don't want to get into a Microsoft ecosystem and be completely bound into their way of doing things, and then have to unwind it all. Your code is profanity. Unfortunately, unless you're a VIP, if it thinks something is a link, it's going to. It thinks add is a. Yeah. How's your deployment target at the moment? Home server. So right now for Liquid Sky, the deployment target is a mini PC with Kubernetes installed on it. Well, Lion. Yeah, I don't like that model. I've never liked that model. Yeah. So I'm gonna wait for that time to finish. So Liquid Sky is maybe if you're still around, by the way, this is the name that I tried to put on my coffee thing the other last week, and it didn't let me do it. Like, I don't know why. It said, "What's your name?" I said, "Jeffrey Winkle," and I was trying to see if you'd understand it. It put my real name on it. It's funny. I've got the Restream chat up here because obviously YouTube, Twitch, and on this screen I can't read it as clearly. It's better to go to the actual chat, but if it's on the prompter, it works fine. For my home Kubernetes deployments, I host a private Docker registry, so I have linked set of scripts. I run project name and it builds and pushes the new Docker container, then kills the instance on Kubernetes, which makes the new image deploy. I want Argo integrated for no downtime deploys, but focused on other things at the moment. It's Artrat, the one we're converting over to .NET Core. I needed to make some changes to the existing deployed app. No pipeline set up for it. .NET Framework 472 MVC. Yeah. When we're dealing with so many things, right? Again, this is my focus. This is what I care about more, right? The deployment piece is important. It's very important. I want to practice it. I want to get better at it. I want to make sure it's nice and smooth. As I go forward, I want to deploy weekly. or bi-weekly at worst, and have updates there so people can test them. Right, that is the goal. You know, be able to go in and deploy a latest version would be ideal. But it's how much brain power do I have? There's a lot to go into it, especially if I'm building something this complicated. It's a lot more. Deploy should be a daily thing because it should take as long as needed for the container to blow up to make it through the environments. Well, if I have the environment set up right now, I have one machine. The intent would be to get a better machine, so that once I'm at the point where I can ask people to really test it, that it can keep it up and running. And then once it's validated and I can say, hey, I want to make this a product now, then I can look at the costs and stuff of what comes next. Because again, it's not a tiny little thing. Okay. And apparently it takes 8 days to do an RZD down, AZD down. So, but yeah, this is Liquid Sky. This is the main focus. It's all running services right now. Is that one giant blob running? Oh, this is all different services. This is all many different pieces. This is each one of these is its own self-contained set of services, one or more pieces. Individual databases, actually individual databases, not schema. We still need to go into that conversation. Kafka, Redis, SQL Server, MongoDB. These use Mongo. They don't use SQL Server, GraphQL. These are all different services. The big idea behind this is that you try to describe your application in the app host in architectural pieces, and then you deploy it to different environments. It uses that model to figure out how to translate the app. Yeah, my problem though is the developers aren't the ones necessarily doing the deployment piece, right? So it works in an environment where you are, you know, what's the right word for, like, farm to table, or whatever, where you know, or field to table, I suppose. It works in that environment, but what happens when it goes to an actual production? That doesn't scale and work that way for costs, etc. So your concerns when you're doing the development are not the same as when you're doing the deployment or the production deployment. So yeah. No, I know Aspire doesn't. I know Aspire's. You can use other cloud providers. You can, and other plugins are happening. Yeah, but is it becoming everything, right? So is it minimum zones? Hello, how are you doing? Um, Minimal APIs. They're here. They're in here. He says, "Oh, look at them. Look at those minimal APIs. Just sweetly sat right at the bottom of all that clump of code, hidden." So is this Docker container deployed? So the way that Liquid Sky builds is there is a pipeline that builds Docker images once it publishes. Once I push to the release branch, the main, sorry, that will publish the Docker Hub, and I have Docker Hub hooked up so that, like, I did have a deployment working where it pushes images. So yeah, all these all these are Dockerized, all the services. So there's a pipeline, there's a workflow. I'm gonna get myself confused. Workflows. So there's a basically this. It will build it. It will check out the shared library. It will set up SDK, log into Docker, and then push and tag the image. So it will do the build and the publish to the image. So there is images of all Liquid Sky. And then the peripheral pieces are actually right now in a script, a prereq script that starts up all the supporting pieces. So console, Mongo, Kafka, Papercut, RabbitMQ, Redis, SQL Server. Anything over the net seems too slow to be realistic to me because you have to push giant binary and then pull giant binary to deploy. I mean, hosting it, I've done it with the hosting things locally before. I've just found that configuring all the little pieces locally. All this stuff is in Docker Compose, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, these pieces are all Docker Compose. I actually have a PowerShell script that I can feed the name of the pieces and start them up and stop them. So just do dot services up and it just Docker Compose all the pieces. Okay, so we got rid of our resource group. So let's go back to developers.stream. That's the focus of the stream. So what we're saying is, so this .azure folder is where the environment's created. So let's delete that. And yeah. That's touch weird in that Docker Compose has that functionality built in, but I have DC test. So I get it. Docker Compose. So we get into a realm, right? And I apologize if there's too much chat for people today. This is great. I love this sorts of conversation, right? So I hope everyone else is okay with this. But if I've got so much development to do, so I only have 2 hours at best a day on Liquid Sky, right? Right now, maybe a few hours in the evening, maybe some weekends. But I don't have that much time. So do I focus on the development or do I focus on the deployment? And if I focus on the deployment, what happens when my development shifts, right? So I've got like chicken and egg going on. How much time on any tool can you spend? Like the Aspire stuff. If it wasn't for Mitch, my journey would have been very different today because my focus and my questions aren't as educated. So having someone who's done this stuff, who's researched this stuff, is really useful. Great for, again, the community, for that's why this is such a great community, because we can share those experiences. But yeah, it's you don't learn about a lot of tools because you just don't have the time or knowledge necessary to ask the right questions to find the pieces you're looking for, and you just kind of stumble and grow and change. You're targeting this against multiple environments. So Liquid Sky right now is not targeted against multiple environments. It's targeted against one. Developers.stream, the intent is to just push this to a production available instance right now. Liquid Sky, ultimately, yes, I would have staging and then prod deployments of, because I'd like to push latest changes on a daily basis. Once stories are completed, push them to the staging environment so they can be tested, and then push them to prod later. Deployment taking more than 5 minutes is too much. Start there because everything else will jam up behind it. Deployment of Liquid Sky with Pulumi was taking about 3 or 4 minutes at most to run, this. So Liquid Sky, when it's running, is with the app hosting is 16 actual services, 17 with the Aspire host. And then these pieces were all in Kubernetes as well. So ultimately, if this was going to production, these would not be in Kubernetes. These would be Console, I probably don't need. I can probably remove at this point. I don't need that service. I'm not using console for service discovery. I'm using it for key value store. Redis would have an alternative. The server storage would have an alternative. RabbitMQ and Kafka, there are SaaS options. If you're configuring service locations at Trace env base, you can set aliases in the Docker and compose itself and then can reconfigure it for different ends. But just switching all the envs out using the same compose. Yeah, I've had one of the previous apps I worked on was or one of my previous experiments with all this stuff was using Helm charts and doing environment variables and stuff there. That was quite fun. Okay, let's see if we can get developers.stream. So I've deleted the Azure folder. We've got the production profile. Let's start that up again. So I'm just going to do azd up again, which will prompt me for an environment because I have just deleted the environments. Correct? As you go. East US. Why are you asking me for... oh. No, it asked me for the PostgreSQL password. It prompted that. One of the things that Spider does for you here is set up service discovery. Service discovery overrides the default name resolution process in the .NET HTTP client redirects it. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. When I did AZD up, it asked that. It's running the wrong branch of the code. Well, it didn't try and do this before. When I did it up with the previous, it didn't try and do the PostgreSQL piece. Yeah, liquidsky.software right now is down because it's not it's because my deployment has completely gone crazy. So if run mode development, if that build production, that should be adding connection string. Yeah. So unfortunately, Lucas Guy is down right this second, but the intent was, and this is what I was trying to deploy, so that people could test it and have a play with all the latest changes. So this is all new UI to what it was. Settings now moves here. All the consistent labeling and all these are aligned now, so they don't shift. There's no visual jutta. There's all sorts of stuff there. Also, you don't need to specify password manually; it'll do it automatically. What the heck? That's Liquid Sky. Oh, that little screen's just close enough. Gotcha. Makes sense. Just from what you've shown, I'm pretty sure you're overgrown for Docker Compose and should just go for Kubernetes. Yeah. So I was using Pulumi for deployment. which was pushing to Kubernetes. It's but it's time. It's just pure time. I've got to figure out what I need to learn and how much I can learn and still move forward because I want to get development done. I was trying to look at Argo. Yeah. You can also do with lifetime. So Napalm, good morning. So the problem I have with that is, right, if I do that, right, if I do persistent, now I have to be responsible for shutting down that container resource, right? So yeah, I get that that's possible, but I don't want to do that because I want, again, I'm doing developers.stream, I'm doing Liquid Sky. I want I don't want, basically what happens is when I shift focus normally, I bring all this down. So these aren't sat taking up anything. Yeah. Yeah, I understand the consequence there. But okay, so this is it's close but not close enough because it's not asking for this. It's prompting for this. Let's see what happens now when I do that. ADD up. Look at your outpost CS file. I think it's going down the wrong branch. Enter password for the Postgre. Let me delete that folder again. Open with Notepad. Okay. Not sure how it's going down the wrong path. Is this code base generally available for other people to poke at? I'm trying to look at the site to avoid asking simple questions, but yeah, and please don't let me slow down. Ignoring being hacking is just fine. No worries, man. So the code for developers.stream, which is this one, which is the one I'm trying to deploy to Azure right this second, is open source. The code for Liquid Sky is not open source now. This I want to become a real product. So I need to keep that closed. So combo with explicit start and lifetime persistent might get you close to where you want. Yeah, I just don't want the container living there. That's the problem. I kind of like the idea of bringing everything down. Like that's why I have a script to start everything up and bring everything down, so I can transition. Now knowing what I know about this, I could potentially do something similar, but it would be costly to. No, I don't want to do that. Yeah. Sorry. Okay, so CDD dev projects. Yeah, there's a data volume on the Postgre. Oh, there should be. That was causing us some problems last week, actually. Yeah, with data volume. That actually caused some problems because Postgre was like, no, I can't write to that. And then we go into the whole app container thing. Okay, so what we're doing here, I moved the USB dongle from my mouse. So I've got a ProtoArch mouse. I moved it to the back of the computer, and an inch to the right on my desk is too far, so that it gets juttery. Okay, so I'm doing .NET run operation publish uh publisher manifest. This will generate the manifest that oh, we gotta go into that post. Sorry. You did say that. You said that post. CD Aspire. No. Infra. No. Did I put a oh, did I do it? I did. Volumes make me itchy. I force use directories and eat the performance delta just for the feeling of control. Volumes are a bit hit but necessary evil. Hopefully the new Mac OS container support in the future might make the situation better. Yes, I do that on Mac. That's cool. I get where you're coming from, but you can hear my cold hands. Okay, so let's try that again. .NET run. So that will produce the manifest. Oh, or error. The output path. So that's now created an Aspire manifest. That's the two things I was expecting it to ask for, right? um, Seems like it should be if they support Docker and Podman, but who knows? I've had nothing but issues. So we got Docker installed on the work laptops. I use Mac for work, and I've been doing .NET. And I had so many problems trying to use Podman. Docker was just worked. So that says that should ask for the right things, right? That should ask for those two values. Docker and Podman have a very similar CLI, so it's easy to spell both. It's not sure how similar new. Yeah. Okay. But so I've just cleaned out. So hold on. Let's delete the infra folder. Make it go at it again. Is there any information it's going to show that is not what I want to share? It's already shown my subscription ID there. Let me just bring that down. Let me just, for my own comfort, let me just make sure. It's got the subscription IDs. That's it, right? See? Again. Let's do this. Let's delete that. Let's delete that. Let's delete that. I don't think there's anything in app host that it creates that is, oh, yeah, okay. Start from the beginning, see how it goes. So we are running out of time a little bit here. Sadly, I'm employed beyond what I do on stream. So confirm, continue, enter unique environment name, developers, stream. Okay. So that's created an Azure folder with developer with the environment, nothing in it. Okay, so now let's do AZD. Oh. So being that this is going and I'm moving forward with progress with this, this may help with, there we go. We just had to delete it and start again. Okay, I'm going to move that off screen because I do want to give that a connection string. Let me just do. I think they're going to be identical. Yes. Okay. And then let's see how that goes. So returning to Liquid Sky development. What I'm trying not to do is I'm trying not to do any more development on it until I've got the deployment figured out, because I want to get into the habit of making sure, to Nana's point, I want to make sure that distribution of the application is a consistent thing. Like I'm constantly able to, even if I don't do it, I am able to publish a new version daily potentially, but at the very least be able to push it quite frequently. So I don't want to do a lot more development until I get to that point. So I'm struggling with this, sure, but a lot of this may help me in terms of deploying. If I can figure out the Kubernetes aspect of it, it might be that I switch to the Kubernetes aspect of Liquid Sky tomorrow and see if we can get that working for publishing the pieces. Now, there's still a lot of missing stuff because I still need to figure out how to get the rest, but maybe I create... Maybe what I do is I create a project for the prereqs. So the prereqs actually are open. Can I open a folder this way? Prototypes. Yes. This is under the prototypes project next project. It's been a year in development. Yeah. No, not for Liquid Sky. No. Smirking, hello. How you doing? But maybe I create an Aspire host project for this and get the Kubernetes stuff working for the prereqs. So the prereqs right now, I have the folders, I can deal with configuration and stuff. And then I just have my service script that starts them up and runs all the Docker Compose files. it's AZD up is working away right now, so we'll see how that goes. Yeah, so thanks to Mitch, got a lot more forward progress on this. So right now we've got, so you can do in the spy, you can do run mode or publish mode, and basically when it runs in publish mode, it runs the build production right now. So locally I can have the Postgre server up and running, but remotely I don't have any Postgre. I'm just providing connection strings. Sorry, family stuff. You should be able to get into a single set of code that does both scenarios with a few conditionals. Yeah, yeah. I'm okay with it being distinct. I kind of like the idea of profiles. What it would be nice to do is be able to reuse them though, so that I don't end up with the same stuff. But yeah, I get that most of it can be replaced. Yeah, smoking. That's my feeling exactly. It was like, I have not seen this before, so this was interesting to see. So I'm very thankful for Mitch attending the stream today. um, uh, I screenshot your text that so I can implement all those node types in my project. Nice, nice. Yeah, I mean, if you have any questions, the Discord is always there. You are more than welcome to join Discord and ask questions. I don't mind sharing questions. Um, I don't mind answering questions. I just don't share the code because it is something I want to do. Least I could do, I wrote the code. You mean you actually wrote this code? So run mode is true when run. Ah, so you are. Oh, thank you. Then that is even better. I didn't follow that part. I apologize. That kind of makes you a bit more of an expert, then, doesn't it? Yeah. So I think to the point of I could make it one set of code, right? Yeah, there's definitely a lot of duplication here now. I'm creating a lot more problems because if I, if I change this now, I've got to change it in two places. So the reason for change and the risk of disconnect is higher. You know, humanity. So this project, by the way, developers.stream is fully open source. All this code is, it definitely will be. I'll tell you what, I'll make sure. Make sure this is published after stream, so that this is all available to everyone. Okay, so this is that's gone. RG. No. Resource groups. RG developers stream. There you go, that one. I created one for it and it isn't used. Container apps. So we have, let's see what happens here. You should have, yeah, there you go. 2 more databases. Yes. I'm just running ahead of myself here. No tables. Yeah, it's giving me, yeah. yeah, it's given me the link. I'm just going to see if the Aspire dashboard works. This hasn't worked so far. I apologize. There you go. Couldn't authorize. That's fine. So this should start and finish, and this isn't starting and finishing. Does the... No. They all start. Log stream. Application. Interesting. It should work. Are you using a live ID? Live ID. That started. I didn't error. Yeah, I don't have any Entra set up. That's what you mean. Connected to container. Nice. Well, Mitch, I sincerely appreciate your presence today on stream. It has been very welcome. I obviously got my stream title right for you to catch it. It got the connection, but failed on open. Frustrating. Anyway. So again, the goal here has been from the start to say, you know, how do I deploy this using kind of, I'll say mixed mode, right? I don't want to host the database in Azure because the cost. So if the docs are correct, hosting the Postgre in an app container or in a container app is not the right way to run Postgre anyway. But having the external database, I can run a free Postgre database that has got better resources than I could host locally for lower costs, because they're going to keep the costs low, right? We can always reflect back on the usage. We can obviously look at Azure storage. We can look at other things. And that's why this project is open source. If you have ideas, thoughts, opinions on how you want to do it, if it's doing things quirky, you're more than welcome to push an issue, right? It is a community project. The intent of developers.stream, which I haven't actually said publicly on this stream specifically, is the intent is it's a site where if you want to go and find developers who stream, regardless of platform, because discoverability of streams on YouTube is terrible. Then we can do that. Open telemetry, that is included. We can the service defaults are added there. So those things there. Could be open. Could be just a connection string format or firewall rules for your database. Yeah. Napalm, take care. Yes, it's 9:07. I do not want to lose my job either. So yeah, we will. We may pick up tomorrow looking at Liquid Sky, but from a Kubernetes perspective. and see how that goes. I do want to get back into a schedule. Yeah, let's go hotel. Yeah, integrated in my tool. It's good times. Nice, nice. Yeah. Um, so yeah, thank you, Mitch. Again, sincerely appreciate all the help today. Um, I think Aspire is helping me more than I realize. I am still concerned about the entire long term vision of it because the tooling is you know uh, I'm still the developers who deploy are not the developers who the developers who develop are not necessarily the deployers. Um, but that is a challenge that I can overcome. And in my case, it is exactly the truth, right? I am doing it, so why fight it? Why not use the tooling? But yeah, we'll get Liquid Sky. Maybe try to do Kubernetes deployment tomorrow. The problem with Liquid Sky is the pieces that aren't Liquid Sky. So let's go raid over to streaming. See, this is exactly why we need an application like this. We need to do. Totally get that. So one of the key things you could do is write an extension to Aspire, which instead of generating deployment artifacts, generates a README for infra files. That I can see the benefit of. That I could definitely see. Because that would get past that, because it would be like, here you can develop locally. By the way, here's an infrastructure diagram and the deployment tools necessary to deploy those pieces. Because I do work with DevOps people who kind of do need a bit of that guidance, but they do handle all the stuff using, Terraform, etc. The model knows all the environment variables that need to be configured, and it can just write it out to a Markdown file. Yeah, that would be we're also building a Spire CLI, which will generate all the bicep files for you. You can just review that if you want. Wasn't there a CLI originally? Yeah, I think that would honestly answer my concern. Like the idea of it can be a deployment tool. Gotcha. It can be a deployment tool, but it doesn't have to be. It can be a guidance tool as well. But again, I think with Liquid Sky especially, it's cleaned up the deployment, it's cleaned up the development of this. It's given me the ability to hook in things like OpenTelemetry, etc., that were a nightmare previously. Yeah, but no, this is I am very thankful for your attendance. But anyway, uh, I mean, anything's possible. That's the point, right? Rambling. It's like like I said, it knows everything it needs. It knows how to do that. So how you translate it, it's an adapter to put on to do whatever you need. The deployment steps is just a uh, taking those tools and saying, "Oh, I'm deploying to Azure. Here's what the information I need. Here we go." So creating a Markdown file, you just have to interpret those values and output that effectively. Yeah. Um, and I think that's the idea, right? It would be how do you extend the system? How do you uh yeah. See, this is the rabbit hole. Because now we can say, okay, well, instead of doing it in developers.stream or Liquid Sky, let's go off and build a plugin to generate mermaid diagrams or yep, Rambling Geek and I straight away on the same page. Um, but anyway, we're gonna change topics a little bit. We're gonna go switch. Part of why I'm building developers on stream is to help with discoverability of other developers who do the same sort of stuff, right? Doing .NET streams, not common. So, and there's unless it's in with game development, yeah. So yeah, the Aspire dashboard uses the model in the app host to render an interactive graph. Nice. Yeah, that is a nice little graph. I do like that. But yeah. So, so feedback, Mitch, in any case, would be several of the developers that have been in the stream had no idea about that capability. So that was an interesting one to find. So, yeah. No, we're all devs, but finding app devs as well at this time of the day, I don't find many. So that's why we raid to game devs and other things at this time. So if anyone has an app dev who is streaming right now that they would recommend, I'm happy to raid over to someone that you trust. But I don't, in my curated list, I do not have anyone doing app dev. You can avoid doing that too. We have different tricks you can use. Ah, well, rambling geeks off on a tangent now. But let's go raid Layla. Layla is building a game. It's been building a game for a while. She just got back to streaming. Let's go raid Layla. We haven't raided Layla in quite a while. Layla Codes It is a .NET developer and is currently building her game. Nice. Yeah, I'm very glad this stream turned out the way it did. I appreciate all the help. I appreciate all the chat. Hopefully it was useful. Again, if you want to check out this code, you're more than welcome to. And all opinions and thoughts are welcome. So if you, even if you didn't like it, yeah, I'm gonna give I should have given out several shout outs today, but I want to shout out OneLine. OneLine is another .NET application developer, builds using Blazor, an experienced developer building real apps, working on real stuff during the day, shares his development for a few hours on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and on Fridays, to host a community day, which is full of discussion, which this week, this past week again, was on the use of AI in our workflows and opinions on things like that. So I would highly recommend checking out OneLine if you're interested in .NET development. But as I said, let's go raid Layla. Layla Codes It is a .NET developer building her game. And yeah, I will be back tomorrow, probably the Liquid Sky, maybe looking at the Kubernetes pieces of Aspire to see if we can get those pieces deployed, because that would be very good. Yeah. So anyway, thank you. Take care. Have a great rest of your day. And I'll see you soon. Bye all.